this last one is really just an overall networking forum. Since there's not many, we're gonna do a quick intro. And we've got some folks online. And then this is just an open forum, questions, some of the cool things. I always like to what are some of the new innovations happening? What are the biggest problems happening, concerns? Where do you need help from the CTD standpoint? I want to know what kind of training needs are you looking for? How can we better wade for farm planners? Because I'm going to be probably engaged in wade again next year. What can we do? What are you looking for? What are your needs? So anyway, let's start with some intros and then we'll get into that.
All right, hi, I'm Christina Trahern from the Stevens County Conservation District. Somewhat new, I started in December and I've been doing mostly fire recovery, but I've also stepped in and helped up with the sustainable farms and fields stuff we're doing. So yeah, here to learn. Karina Cheever, Conservation Planning Program Manager at Conservation.
Dean Helly, Stevens County Conservation District, started as a resource specialist planner. Moved up to manager. Don't ever do that if you're offered that. So that's my advice for the big guy.
I'm Megan Weldon, King CD of Farm and Dairy.
I'm Miranda Smith with King CD and I'm the Community Agriculture Coordinator.
Jay Miro, King CD, Farm Planner.
Sierra Young, Jefferson County CD Planner.
I'm Delaney Disher. I'm the VSP and Outreach Coordinator at Lincoln County CD. But I also do our direct seed and then some firewall stuff. So kind of hoping to hear what projects you guys are all doing and who's doing it for you.
Awesome. Welcome.
Lorenzo Trape, Grace Harbor and Pacific Conservation Districts, and I'm the VSP manager.
Brad Reary is a Lincoln Conservation District.
I'm Chase O'Neill and I'm from Snohomish.
I'm Anna Beebe. I'm from Watson CD and I'm a farm and dairy farm.
Sam Brindle, Clark CD.
Kayla Peterson, Columbia CD.
Awesome. Well, with that, I don't have an agenda for this. This is your forum to network and chat about. So I'll just open it up to whatever you want to talk about. We have some topics if everybody's not wanting to say anything, but.
Let's include.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please introduce the online folks.
Anna, you want to introduce yourself?
Sorry.
Hey, Annie.
How about, Annie, we can't hear you. Maybe Riley, do you want to go?
Yeah, can you hear me there?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Riley Zients. I'm with the Franklin Conservation District as their resource conservationist, and I as a farm planner as well.
Trevor?
Hi, Trevor Gearhart. I'm with Wacom CD, resource specialist, farm planner. Yeah, I've been joining all day. It's fun to listen to you guys.
Griffin, do you want to go?
Yeah, I'm Griffin Hansen. I'm with the Columbia Basin CD, and I'm a conservation planner.
Thanks. Kat, we're just introducing ourselves. If you'd like to introduce yourself and where you're from.
Hi, I'm Kat Garza from the Walla Walla County Conservation District. And I'm a conservation scientist. Nice to see everyone.
And then Annie, if you want to go.
Yeah, hi, Annie Byerly, also with Walla Walla.
Awesome, thank you. And with that, and feel free to unmute and button if we don't see you, but we'll be monitoring the chat on that. And then we'll just open it up for conversation.
Can I throw out an idea? I brainstormed this morning for maybe next year for
Yes.
something. Good. We were just chatting this morning and we were saying Miranda has a community ag program and maybe we could pull something like having a talk about a couple different agencies that have a similar community ag program, hearing more about some unique programs that some districts have that we don't hear about a lot, like. It'd be cool to hear about what the different community ag programs are like.
lettuce. Lettuce.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The presentation.
But yeah, some sort of urban, yeah, that kind of realm would be.
Did anyone here get one of the food systems grants? Because I would love to hear about that. What are you guys doing?
Who's that for?
Through the
Conservation mission,
Oh,
like 5,000.
Yeah, it was like
oh, I know, okay.
They're working with a local organization to help support community gardens.
Can you talk louder?
Oh, yeah, so you got one of the food systems grants. I wish Carolyn was here because she's the one who wrote it. And I believe we're using it with Vancouver Farmers Market to help with those garden beds and education and outreach flyers to distribute that.
Yeah, Pacific got one and they are working South Bend. They have a community garden. They got some new garden beds. And I think they're doing some signage to help with awareness about community garden.
And Wacom, we got a grant and we are doing, we're focusing on expanding our outreach and our services. So we bought simultaneous interpretation equipment, and then we hired a consultant to help us learn how to grow, specifically targeting the Latino community and translating a lot of our website and our rental materials and outreach materials. And did I miss anything? And we also hosted events that we offered simultaneous translation at.
We were cultural ambassadors to all of our brands.
That's what we learned. We're gonna write cultural ambassadors into all of our grants, and we're working with a consultant, like, this is.
Yep.
Yeah.
For us, it's Spanish, comfortable. With a lot of the Mayan languages and Snohomish, to a lesser extent, tribe, and but the spot on the tribe.
I feel like we need a cultural ambassador, like. Can we do that as a CTD?
Yeah.
Or like
I'm not following.
Well, no, we just like, I think we talked with Pierce CD and then Harvest Pierce County. And if you're doing it too, like, we got some really great resources, maybe Google Drive would be helpful.
Oh, do a forum. Is that what you said? Oh, yeah. We could set up a forum if somebody wants to lead it. We can work with the CTD to set up a forum and you guys can meet quarterly as about your cultural ambassador program. They do it with the cover crops, they do it with the dairies, we do the farm planning one.
Yeah.
Do you want to do it?
I'll leave it.
Voluntary? Wow. Everything to talk to you.
Yeah, well, just the jam. We can set something up with jam at CTD.
We do it as con. So it's like, you've got a little super group between Salish Roots Farm, this Swap Island Tribes Farm. And then Seattle, who's real deep into Thurston and like Mason County. And they're like team group. So their services are pretty broad and inspiring, from like immigration lawyer services to, you know, big food bank in Shelton. And sponsored with like Department of Ag and stuff like that. So it's like you get these cool connections through that. And, you know, so the forest products industry, like the Salal harvest is extremely similar to their mountainous rainforest forest product. But it's gonna be huge. Like if you at the food bank, it's like lying down the road in my cars, and if you look, all the vans have their forest permit like sticked up into there. So it's like pretty cool opportunity, but it's like finding like a mom on the ball translator, but you see it, most of them are involved with courts, so it's like, okay, like. Weird, made us feel weird too, having that segregation, not knowing the people, because they're saying that for stuff, and you know, our services. Everyone, right?
Check out why I love it, everyone, just to make sure everyone knows.
So, definitely, we met the Shelton guy who's like a little smaller block, but. You know, of the community, like this whole. Job is that community coordinator thing, and it's like, oh, there's a new. So it's like with the Spanish, yes, but most of the Mayan languages aren't. Necessarily written, and they're not dialects, they're 31 individual languages too. And he's like, even with the different local tribal languages, he's like 2 weeks into it, and like a fluent speaker. So I'm like. Move back. But. So, bring it on, you know what, we were doing holidays with that group too. When you talk about center, dude. So, no, it's, you know, there's a lot of opportunity with underserved community. And we as a district leverage our annual work plan. You know, big democratic process, and we get very specific with it. So we're like, oh, why are we doing the grant? Because we said we're gonna do it. So. I feel like every grant has room for that, and it only improves your chances of success. Because most of the funding sources like DEI, Title III, right, all of that is way in the ranking. And if they're our partners, like more than happy participate.
So, sorry, but what does that look like? So your grant includes funding and then you have a contract with this person to just like assist you with translations of it?
Yeah, we'll toss them something, we'll say like, what's your rate, or it's like, so, good example, you know, with the meat capacity expansion grant from WSD. Ours was written for the new upgraded poultry processing stuff trailer, dual language signage and anything for everything. So our big local farmers market, the #1 product sold is live chickens, and it's 100% going to Guatemala. That's their grocery store, right? So it's like 100 chickens that are gone before the market opened. So we're like, you know, I watched one, somebody just and on the way back to the car, and it's like, I got a better way for you to do that. You know, maybe not, you know, trying to, so Melissa Jamars was like, hey, we got a bunch of money to put on little, you know, our dream like workshop. Didn't make it work. We did a translator was out of town for that week. The goal was like, okay, yeah, so it was written in, I guess, I'm taking a walk with it. So chunked in dual language signage on everything. You know, on stuff like the big shellfish SIL that came out. Like part of the ranking specifically was about like private food, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion. So it's like, okay, how are we reaching these people?
The hard time we're having right now is we have an admin person that's really anal by the book, and previously our cultural ambassadors, we had little contracts with them, but it wasn't really necessarily, you didn't have to have a W-9, blah, 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 but she's like hardcore, you got a W-9, and all these people are not necessarily legal, so it was. Now, I think that's eliminated some of our cultural navigators on the Harvest Pierce County side, so it's, what are you all doing? Are you going by the book, or are you just not? Is this being recorded?
So we're not just like giving. But it is, so our previous one, do it, you know, it's pretty much what the email, is like, that we did there, kind of thing. But some of the other organizations, you know, for them, where, okay, this organization and nonprofit. Like, here is the 5,000.
Oh, yeah, we do our rules pass through, and then they do the.
And then they
Yeah,
make it happen for.
got it.
So, buy the book.
Yeah.
Wait, I just have those like really 2-second questions. You notice a lot about irrigation, raise your hand and I'll call you later.
I have a lot to say about it.
Okay.
I don't know a lot.
Yeah, probably. You know, NRCS has irrigation, special, that's probably where I would go with that.
Do you know who?
No, but.
Jim Farley. Jim Farley's pretty good.
Where's Mark? Mark Crawley he does lots of work with irrigation.
I mean, I just found out it's called lives in Bellingham, so I
We have
don't know.
some this afternoon.
Well, but he's he does a lot of irrigation, a lot of pumps. He was here,
Who is that?
Mark, is it Crawley? Yeah, Crawley out of Kittitas.
I have an
CD.
email address. Okay,
Yeah,
and does anyone have a good, okay, another 2-second question.
and John Paul.
Yeah, John.
Right.
Good irrigation funding sources. People.
They just actually awarded the Washington State, the commission awarded all of their irrigation funding yesterday.
Yeah.
Regarding them.
Yeah,
So we got a,
they're also looking for an irrigation person,
yeah,
technician,
they're looking, yeah.
a program manager, I guess.
The person's role at the commission will be to actually work with farmers writing irrigation plans.
Nice.
But they have had that posted for 4 or 5 months now.
Wow.
You know anyone?
I just know that NRCS didn't select my equip irrigation for the one that we needed.
I can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, we had helped farmers apply for equip irrigation help and didn't rank high enough. So we were having issues with that. So it's good to know there's other resources out there.
Is anybody else doing anything with CSP?
That's the one where they pay you for doing the right thing. It's very complicated. I would love
I
that.
applied for
Did you?
it and then like, it was just like it's too much.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, here's a 500-page book, decide what you want to do. And I'm like, I
Well, it
don't-
locks you in for the term of the contract, so it doesn't, like what I found, because we have an NACD grant and CSP is a part of that. But the problem was our local NRCS didn't do CSP, even though the part of the program was available. So they're kind of learning it, but it's very complicated.
well, that
and
was
then,
it. They didn't
like,
walk me through it. Like,
yeah,
that's-
for the
here's the
large-
thing,
yeah.
decide what you want to do. And I'm like,
The money's, the payments are good, it's a good program, it does like address that. You've done good, now let's continue and pay you an incentive to do more and do, payments, but. The paperwork, like I went out, I did have NRCS in our office, he came out. We worked through the paperwork to fill out, we were there 4 or 5 hours. Filling out the assessments to go through it and, it's where I find it works is for the small acreage that wants to do pollinator habitat. Maybe forestry, but otherwise, like guys that rotate crops, the commodity guys, the crop guys where they have to rotate, you can't because you're locked into that same practice and operation for 5 years.
Is
But
this people
where they don't get
paid
paid
for what they're already doing, they get paid for what they're going to do better? So I've heard a lot of people complain about that, like I'm already doing so much stuff, but I have to do more to get paid, like, why can't I get paid for what I'm already doing?
Yeah, like this one in particular, we're working with the gal that's CSA veggie grower. And she's already doing good work with her veggie growing operation. But what we're paying her on, it's a lot of it's soil health practices, but it's beetle banks, it's pollinator habitat. She's already done riparian plantings. And so we were trying to figure out something that wasn't gonna disrupt her rotations and that kind of stuff. And really all we found was like pollinator habitat on the edges,
beetle banks where she wasn't gonna be tilling.
I guess on the larger scale farmers, like in our area, we have a lot of trouble, like they can't double dip. So,
Well, and they're locked into that exact operation for the life of the contract, which is 5 years. So like our dairies that need to rotate corn around, they couldn't, they wouldn't be able to do that. So I would assume commodity guys are kind of the same way if there's any kind of rotation or anything that's going on.
Is it used at all on the east side?
Oh, yeah, I'm sitting here listening to this, and I got a different perspective.
Yeah,
You know, basically, EQIP and CSP kind of go hand in hand. I've been using it for a long time. I mean, we've got farmers 20 years. They start out at EQIP, they fix the major problem. And then they roll into CSP and they do the advance, you know, like the first one is, you know, the off channel water. Through EQIP, you do the off channel watering, you do the fencing, you do the basic pasture management plan, then you roll into CSP and you do the advanced prescribed grazing, and then you got to keep advancing.
Right.
And it has been very successful in working, you know, especially going back 20 years ago when it first started, and we had some really good, I apologize, NRCS staff that would work with landowners, but we had a total turnover of NRCS staff. We had some of the landowners and new staff stuck their toes, so the farmers actually got asked to pay back money because they miss paperwork done right. Right now, it's just a total cost. All the old farmers don't trust NRCS at all. They don't have the staff there. But the way the program works, it was working really good. And my understanding it was, you do get paid for doing the higher level of management, which you're already doing, keeping it moving forward. And those landowners that were able, right now, the landowners that are able to do their own paperwork, they've been in this 20 years and understand it a little more than the new NRCS employees. They're still able to move forward again. Anything new, and right now, I won't tell a landowner to go into NRCS and sign up. You've got too many old landowners that have a bad taste. The new landowners can't even get anybody to answer the phone. So, you know, it's, I don't know what to say. I don't know how to.
Yeah.
Come on in the center.
I think there's opportunity. I think it's a good program for a landowner. But I'm having a big problem wrapping my head around it because there's a lot going on in there, and I don't feel like, you know, I don't think that the current staff that we're able to work with have a solid understanding to help handhold me through the process as well. Because a lot of it hasn't been really done much at all on the west side, and they're trying. Right, I know it was occurring on the east side and other districts, but
Are you guys doing this? I mean.
Yeah, to throw another monkey wrench into it is like, we don't have the credit. You guys, but there's a continuous CRP program that's through FSA, but NRCS manages it, does it for me, FSA does it, but problem is our FSA director doesn't like the program, so he refused to allow it into the county. And then there's some other issues there, so, you know, right now, which was, you know, 10 years ago, this, you know, is just a perfect system working, it's just totally upside down.
yeah,
Districts kind of, you know, we softly complained, went up the channel, on deaf ears, and then the person we're complaining to retires, and then the person we have to bring back up to speed and all that, so, you know. But we don't want to burn the bridge, but, you know, we got little fires running on all four corners of the bridge.
yeah. It's a
But it's a good program if you can find the right person in NRCS that can simplify it and get you through. Like, it shouldn't take 4 hours of paper. It's pretty simple. It's just an EQIP contract on steroids, and then getting people out to double check it, because Lincoln CD, you know, through the CRP program, and they tie in CSP to that too. But Lincoln County does all their farm. They do 400 site checks. And that was one of the other idea, you know, for that to release the payments. And then, but then there was a huge issue down in the Walla Walla country. I don't know exactly what county, but NRCS wasn't going out and doing field checks. And then all of a sudden, somebody did an audit, and like the CRP ground has to have at least 5 different species in it. Positive species, so they're finding 1 positive species in 4 weeks. They were signing off on it, but the audit didn't sign off on it, so. So you gotta be a little bit careful, if the district's making that agreement, if you agree to do the site check, do the site check. Follow through, fill out the paperwork, right?
Has anybody blazed the trail on the west side of doing CSP?
Still recovering. Yeah, definitely. I think Bobby's point, I'm working in the Mount Vernon field office, so my experience is on the west side. And it's true that we typically didn't use the program over there. That is pretty much, I think it's, kind of structural to the program. The annual payments are based on acreage. So obviously on the east side, you're gonna get a bigger bang for your buck out of the program, $7 an acre.
Yeah, these guys have 1,000 acres in the
Right.
program.
Yeah, that works out to be pretty good. On the west side, that's less true. And so we have to rely more on the number of resource concerns that they address. That's another part of that annual payment. And that can still get you, a couple $1,000, which is not nothing. That's definitely helpful. And I think the point that was made about kind of equip feeding into CSP is true, and it helps a lot if that's something that folks go about entering the program. One, because they've worked with us and they kind of know how slow, onerous, and challenging we can be to work with, but there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So you just have to kind of navigate through all that stuff. And the other piece of that is the work that they've done in the past gets captured in our national database. And so when we're planning on their property for CSP in the future, they get credit for all that work that they've done, and that helps boost their payments. So the more stuff they've done to equip, the better outcome we can CSP. It's still a learning process for us on the west side, and I'm not in your county, but I'd be kind of curious to talk to you a little bit more about dairies, because that's been on my mind too, is how do we make this a better fit for them? I don't know that it's necessarily true that, if they're rotating corn ground, that they wouldn't be eligible. If they're not in control of that same ground for the 5 years of the contract, that becomes an issue. And we should have to leave that out of the contract, but if they're rotating corn grass.
Yeah, I'd love to talk to you, because that's what I've been told is everything has to apply under the entire acreage. And if they're rotating in between there,
Yeah,
they can't change what they're rotating from year to year. If they need to, they're stuck in that 5-year period doing exactly the same thing from that acreage that's developed.
yeah, it's Chattanooga.
Pardon?
I said that's Chattanooga.
Yeah, that's sound more, yeah, definitely.
Is an equip contract always a prerequisite to a CSP contract?
It's not, there's no requirement that you've gone through equipment. The requirement for CSP is that you meet a certain number of resource concerns. So in equip, we're addressing resource concerns. We have to justify our funding
Right.
by saying we're addressing plant productivity and health, inadequate livestock water, terrestrial habitat, whatever it is. In CSP, we have the same buckets of resource concerns. You have to meet 2 of them on each land. The other problem with CSP is that it's an extremely convoluted program to try and explain.
Yeah.
As part of the eligibility is each land use on the farm. So cropland, pasture, forest, farmstead, associated ag land. We have definitions for those things. They have to meet 2 resource concerns. And we have a list for each of those land uses. And then by the end of the contract, they have to meet a new resource concern. I'm kind of forgetting what your question was at this point, but
It was just, do they have to do equip first?
yeah, so as long as they meet that eligibility, then they can participate in the program.
But there's many opportunities for BMPs, like they give you the stack of list of, but here's what you can do, and there's.
Yeah, I felt that there was just too complex for me to make, because I applied myself.
Yeah.
So sorry. and I get to cheat because I have, you know, a history of farm planning. But it was just too complex for me, like I needed more hand holding.
Yeah,
To decide what made sense, like for me to even do, like I couldn't get past that.
Like the enhancements.
Yeah, just
Yeah.
because it was such a big
Yeah.
list and and I also was going on vacation and then John at Renton Field Office. Well, no, I mean, but that's like everyone, like they have a life.
Right.
They can't just focus on,
And we all deal with staffing, yeah.
yeah, and then John was just so busy and Lynn had just left and go down, whatever, but it was like. There just wasn't enough time for me to be able to comfortably,
And I
Yes,
say
you
this
both.
because it's not like a good. We should try and address these applications when they come in the year that they come in. But there is always next year, and you know, you've got the conversation started and you continue to work on it.
Yeah.
It's a relationship,
Yeah.
you have a relationship with that.
well, and
yeah,
that's what I think that I really felt that I needed with a handful of producers was to have that hand holding piece, but showing the benefits of one versus the other, or one versus the other. And how the process works more. I just don't think our field staff had that capability, so we lost on those applications. But we've had those initial conversations now. And we have that next year to figure it out, but, you know, having more like hand holding and discussion with the NRCS staff definitely would be a huge benefit. Because I certainly have the ability to steer them completely in the wrong direction, not understanding DSP and having that NRCS staff or, and there was even, you know, they were great, they did come and do like 2 different trainings for our staff on CSP, and I was even more confused after the training, because it's a big complex program. And, you know, I want to give grace to the NRCS folks too, like here, they were like, here, plunk, you know, you're gonna have an opportunity to do this program work, and they're still doing as well, so I think we'll get there, and I think it is some good opportunity for folks, but it was also so overwhelming. It's like, no. It's hard for me to like be a cheerleader.
I think I've had an equal contract about 20 years ago, so I was considering doing I'll be the guinea pig and figure this out, so then I can be an advocate for us.
yeah.
I haven't figured
Yeah,
out how to
so-
work it out on our farm. I was with James. I went through Equip. I thought, oh, this might be a good opportunity. I can, you know, walk the talk, blah, blah, blah. And I was like overwhelmed from my own operation. But I didn't do it.
Is there more funding available? Like say you have someone you could talk up as, like if you could choose on a landowner and say you could do EQIP or CSP, is there a benefit between?
They're meant to do different things, I
Yeah.
would say. Yeah.
But as far as like potential funding in the area, like funding pools wise, is that just better to ask your local NRCS office?
To blanket statement, I will say CSP funding will be easier to come by in the next 5 years. But
The CSP is paying for something that they're.
I understand,
Okay.
I just am wondering like, I'm always just trying to think like, what's the best, most likely chance to get funding on something?
I would just make sure, think about too that. So in Equip, like we're gonna pay for planting, and so we'll pay for site prep, planting, post planting control. And we'll pay for each of the separately, and we'll pay for usually a bigger component of the cost. And in CSP, if we're doing that same activity, we're gonna cover it under one activity and raise it to another. Because really the incentive program is the annual payment. You do
Not the
get some-
implementation.
I mean, you get
Yeah.
some funding for that.
That's the way I did it. Put it to is like, you're gonna have a set amount for the implementation side, but it's gonna be a good, from the ones that I've seen on even the smaller acreages, I was, that's a great payment for a small parcel of, you know. And a lot of them on the smaller acreages are like, hey, if I can get my taxes paid, great. But these are like that plus, like some of these have been some great, like, and I'm not saying impressive, but there was like a 2-acre farm and they were gonna end up getting like thousands for, which was above their, they were super happy and they're like, what can we do next? Because their incentive is so great and I see an application for CSP. And like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, I want to crack that so much faster, because there is opportunity and there's people out there that would fit the program very well, but I had to have wrap my head around it to get through it.
CTD might need to.
Pardon?
I said, I think CTD might need to poke some of our state leadership. to
Yeah.
have More conversations. On
Yeah.
that.
That's it, I'm gonna write that down.
So here's our idea for next year's roundtable is ask an NRCS tech. Robin will be here.
Yeah.
I would just say, yeah, sorry. I was a district employee before I was RCS. I still have fun with school, the simple days. But my kind of personal goal, and one of the reasons I want to come to waves at people, and that's going to be, is I think we've kind of done like this in the past, however many years, 18 years, and it would be really awesome to see us start to come back together and work more closely together. And to your point, yeah, I think we're going to have a lot of NRCS staff on our side who are brand new, and historically, I think district employees would go to NRCS to get this information, to get help. I think that's going to be more of a two-way street than we.
And that's the hard thing, the history, especially at Stevens County, where we were in the same building.
Yeah.
Actually, I can go look in the minutes where the board, CD did not have staff. So the board of directors were, the farmer had to come in and get approval from the conservation district to work with soil conservation service.
Yeah.
So, and I still got a board member that was part of it. Where all the plans are brought in, the board had to approve the plan.
Yeah.
Then I had to sign cooperator agreements, and all the CD had was a secretary to take the minutes of the board. And then, then the erosion over time, we had to split buildings, so we weren't co-located.
Yeah.
And the huge turnover of staff, like we talked earlier, on the training thing. Yeah, my first 2 years, hopping in an NRCS pickup and do this, and said, well, they can't help this farmer, but the CD can, so we'd slide in and grab that guy, and,
Well, good.
we had so many projects that were funded by NRCS, especially conservation district and all that. So every man for himself.
Well, I'm happy to write a little note here about next wave. Maybe we can collaborate on something. I'd love to get us back to a point where, there's a direct link to NRCS.
Yeah.
Might we go to check out?
Yeah, okay, check it out.
Yeah. If you had it.
Okay, we're losing some folks, people.
Oh, okay. No, I did like you to Taylor. I just sent her out.
You met.
And then.
Maybe when I was doing my.
Everybody has. Yeah. Sure.